As you're going through your journey, you can't, don't, it's like you can't always expect the gratification, but it's like, yeah, but it keeps the momentum going, man.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 154 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, we get the great pleasure of being joined by Matt Bearce. Matt is a Massachusetts real estate agent with Starpoint Realty, runs a kick-ass meetup in Fitchburg, also is a facility manager in the commercial real estate sector, and has done a bunch of flips, wholesales, own multis, you name it. Matt's been in the space for a very long time, and we're very excited to have him on today. What's going on, my man? How the hell are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Kyle. Thanks for having me on.
Heck yeah, man.
I'll be correct and say I've owned one multi, but that's okay. Right. No, that's funny. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. No, I'm super excited to for you to join us today, man.
No, I appreciate you taking time to have me on. It's cool being episode 154. I like that. Yeah. I've been doing this a while, so yeah, it's nice to can say it's my first official podcast, so it's exciting,
Hell yeah, man. I'm more excited for you. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. So to kind of jump right in, tell us a bit about, how you found the real estate space, or wherever you want to jump in. Like I mentioned, I like to leave it open to guests wherever they want to, kind of start their humble beginnings. Go from there.
I'm an Acton native, so this is where I grew. It's where I grew up. So, but I can say the real estate space that goes back a while. Actually, I probably the first time I really kind of saw something about it was if people that have been on this podcast are a little older, if they remember the Carlton Sheets program. That goes back to the 90s. So. He had a program very similar to, it's basically fixing and flipping and fluff and buff type of thing. So that was probably the first time I really saw it. But I mean, like I said, that was a long time ago. So you didn't have the technology or whatever that you have now. I mean, this would go back to, you'd probably have to get an agent, whatever, and, find a home or whatever. I can't really remember the program verbatim. It was so long ago, but that was the first time I really saw something, but obviously didn't do much with it, so, but ultimately, not long after that, I was roommates. I had a roommate, at the time. So before I had met my wife, that's where I lived. We lived in a 4-family. I roommated with him and whatnot. But once I had met my wife, which was not too long after that, we had met in 1998, and I was looking for a house anyway. So, and the only way to get in was a 2-family. And so about 6 months after we met, we had bought a 2-family in Shirley, which is ultimately still where I live today, but it is not a 2-family anymore. We had it for about six years.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, so it was the beginning, it was getting into a home, but it was the only way I could really qualify because we didn't really have the income and, we had the down payment and whatever, but I went through about 6 sets of tenants roughly. But so we had 3 that were decent, 3 that were not
so decent. Not so kind.
Yeah. And I realized, I was like, I'm not really handling this that well, because if you're doing stuff I don't like, I'm not going to probably deal with it very well. So it just got to the point where I'm like I had one set of tenants, my first set of tenants, they weren't really bad, but they went and they painted what was their dining room, or what's now our dining room, brown and orange like colors to the wall, and my wife's like, I'm like, okay. And they had a cat or whatever that we found out later that they had. So it's just like, oh,
lots of fun stuff.
So ultimately they didn't stay long. Luckily they left kind of on their own, but I kind of held back the deposit a little bit, which got to be, they kept asking for it. I'm just like, you're not getting the whole thing. No. But I had to be careful because they had, I know one of their, I don't remember who it was, but one of their relatives or whatever, father or something was an attorney. So I'm like,
nice.
Yeah, probably not. I was like, you better give him something back. So I think I gave him like half of it back or whatever it was. But I mean, still, it's just, we had to repaint part of the place, and it's just like, come on.
Yep.
But yeah, but then like I said, we had some tenants that were pretty good. It's just, you had your good and bad ones, but overall, once we got once we got married and whatever, we had our daughter or whatever, and then once we got pregnant with my son, that's when we were like, well, we need more space. So we ultimately turned the house back into a one family. Which was great. I mean, I certainly don't regret that. But when you go back and when you look at it today, you're like, I'm kind of missing that income a little bit. You're bringing in $1,000 a month or whatever at the time. This was from 98 till probably 2004, I think, when we turned it back into a one family. So, but it's but I mean, the house it's an old farmhouse, so it was originally a single family to begin with, so it wasn't that hard to turn it back into that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is interesting though. But of course, moving forward, I didn't really get back into the real estate space for a while. I'd been obviously a working guy, so it was just always working. I always had 2 jobs. I was, just always going and going and going. So it just but I mean, I was built for it. As young, I could do it, and I had a purpose. I was working for the family and everything else. My wife and I did the split shift for a few years. I worked during the day, whatever she worked at night. So it was challenging. It's but like I said, I certainly don't regret it. But it was some hard. There was some tough times. Family, trying to balance life, work, everything. It was crazy.
I can imagine, man.
Oh, it is. Yeah. So with that comes stress and, needing money and everything else. And it's just, but after a while I was working in a school for a number of years. I was working in another school. So I always had the 2 jobs going, but I got to the point where I was just like, this is starting to get to be a lot.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. You're really pushing the envelope when you've worked and you fall asleep on a late afternoon and you wake up after dark and you have no idea what goddamn day it is. You're going like, oh man. I'm like, I was like, okay, I'm pushing this way too hard here. I said, I got to start thinking of something else here. So it just, as the years went on, I just, I remember just sitting in my truck after work. I was at my night job, whatever. And I just had my head on the steering wheel and I'm just like, what am I going to do here? I said, this is nuts. I can't keep this up. This is going to kill me. I won't wake up. I was afraid I wouldn't wake up one day. Just, it was just that. Yeah. I was like, all right, kids at home. I'm like, there's gotta be a better way to do this, So my initial inspiration, ironically, on my 40th birthday, it was a Saturday, and the show Flipping Boston had just come out probably a couple weeks prior. So is Saturday afternoon, they played the episode before, then they played the new episode. And this one happened to be, they were doing a 2-family project in Lowell.
Oh, damn.
And what sparked me was just, it was close to home. Just something about that was just like, oh, wow, this isn't like Property Brothers or you're in, it's way out in California.
Like Oregon or something.
Homes that's in Canada or whatever. I was like, wait a minute, that's only 20 minutes away. So it just kind of, it kind of drew me in. And as I started watching it, I started to watch Pete and Dave, who I don't know if you've seen the show or not, but if you do,
I don't think so.
But just their interplay with each other and just seeing how they work together, and just, you have one who's the project manager, or he does the design management, and Dave does the construction management. So just the overall, just the dynamic of them working together, having two strong personalities, and just seeing how that whole thing worked. I was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. I said, I'm already in the kind of construction industry. I should, now that I'm kind of jumping all over the place, that's kind of was my background.
That's okay.
that's what I went to high school for. I went for carpentry, trade school. That's what I graduated with. So,
yep.
So between doing side jobs and everything, handyman work, it kind of was interesting because I'm like, well, all right, I'm already kind of doing the work. So it was nice. That's something I could see myself doing, and so I decided at that point, I just kind of kept watching the show and just kind of letting it draw me in a little bit. I did a few YouTube videos here and there. I mean, this was in 2012, so it was early on. So there wasn't too much out there at that. I mean, there was, but not like there is today. I mean, there's a lot. You can go anywhere now.
Absolutely.
So I had, I said, well, all right. So the way in, obviously, to this these days is, I think a lot of people do, is wholesaling is what people are drawn to. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. You don't really need money, but, you find the deal, whatever, and, you basically play matchmaker, if you will. At least that was how I saw it. So I was like, all right. So I wound up going to my first meetup. I think it was, I never can remember if it's 2014 or 15. I think it was 2014. Then that was in Worcester. They had the Black Diamond event. So that is when I met our friend, Nick Allerud. So he was the very first one to come up and introduce himself and say hello. And so it's so it was nice. That's how, so we bonded, but I always remember that as a first meetup and meeting him. And it was like, but it was one of those meetups where it was a little more advanced. It seemed like, because it was kind of like, I think the one I went to, it had to do with commercial zoning or something like that.
Something wild.
I was like, okay, but I still went and, out of my comfort zone, I still went and just kind of met people and was like, yeah, how you doing? Whatever. And just trying to kind of feel the room out a little bit. So, so Nick had said, well, I run an event in Chelmsford. And he said, that's a little more for beginners and intermediate or whatever. He said, you should come there. So okay, cool. So I went, and that's when I kind of more or less, I won't say met the world, but that's where I met a lot of investors that I know now. So, but yeah, it's just a matter of just getting out, meeting people, and just kind of figuring things out. I mean, like anything else, because I knew I had to do something. So that's just kind of how it began. And like I said, we're still kind of, I guess, trying to figure it out. But I've had some success. I've had some not successes, but I did end up partnering with a few people and did some fixing and flipping for a while, which was great because I like being on a team. I just think I function better on a team. I like being in that position where you're all contributing to something. I handled a lot of the kind of the back end stuff. I wasn't really the boots on the ground, so to speak, but I handled paying the contractors and everything, because I had the LLC.
Yep.
So I was given an opportunity to well, why don't you, let's kind of work this together, and I can help the GC. And then we had a husband and wife real estate partnership that they found, they got the money and, did that stuff. And we got the money and we worked the project, hired the guys and all that stuff. So I got a lot of experience doing that, going in, doing properties, everything. So it was a different way, but I wasn't really the boots on the ground. If I had to be once in a while, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not where I want to be now. It's like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. But,
Yep.
but
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
That's super, super neat, man. Especially even from the beginning too. And it's funny, man, because we kind of actually have some things that are similar that I didn't realize until now. So the house that I grew up in Tewksbury and live in now, it used to be a 2-family, but it was an illegal 2-family. It was a single family with a illegal second unit above or whatever. And the they had to convert it back to a single family, I guess, if you will, like before my mom closed or whatever the hell. But so I know how that goes, man. It's like, remember where like the kitchen was and all that. And so I totally feel you there. And I think about it.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, my house is the same thing. Like you having the two, now of course it's like the house is different now. But yeah, you had the little kitchen and one spot, like, wow, that was actually a kitchen, and this is where the washer and dryer were. Wow, that's weird, If you ever put it back, I mean, granted, you could put the house back to that if you wanted to, but it's like, yeah.
And man, like you know where our brain goes, you know what I mean? Like I talk about it with my mom once in a while. I'm like, Ma, we get a driveway on each side. I'm like, the doors are already good. We just got to put a different lock set on them, and then everything's separate. You have like a common mudroom, like shared backyard. I'm like, we should talk to the town and like see if we could do that. And like, I don't know, like our minds race, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I totally hear you with that one. And yeah, it's funny with like the Black Diamond event too, man, because I went to it. Definitely wasn't as early as you, but for me, when I first started to go to events, I went to one of the Black Diamond ones in Burlington at the Marriott near like the Burlington Mall over there. And I remember it was literally like one of the first couple events I ever went to, and like I felt so out of place. Like there was like Nick will probably laugh if he sees this, but there was like the bar cart in the back, and there was like a shit ton of tables everywhere, and like everybody would like shuffle to the front to like get like a 20-second elevator pitch and then move on to the next person.
I think I went to that. Yeah, I think
you probably did.
Yeah, because they had one in Waltham too. Yeah, but I think I don't think I went to the Burlington one once. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, you feel like
I was so out of place, man. I'm like,
I don't have anything to go up there and talk about. What the hell am I doing here?
Yeah, I'm like, am I in the right room here? Like, I don't know, man. Like,
but I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, you're, of course, you have these awkward introductions. Just like, oh, so why are you here? And you're just like, I don't want to.
That's a good question,
talk, man. But
houses
as
are cool,
time
man.
goes on, you have to. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, you gotta get out there and.
Exactly.
Explain who you are, what you're looking for. It does. It sucks in the beginning. I mean, it still kind of sucks now. I mean, I'll do it. I mean, let's put it this way. If I had a choice of talking in front of, I don't know, God knows how many people and going up on a hot air balloon or going way up heights, I'm going to choose all day long. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I hear you, man. And it's funny you say that, because there's a story that I want to bring up that when I like was trying to go to my first event, and I'll keep it like super, super short. I think I've told it on the podcast, but I think it's been a while. But to pair along with that point, man, when I first started to kind of find real estate when I was like 17ish, I started to realize through looking online and whatever the hell, like, oh, like you have to meet people for this, like, field, I guess, if you will, like to do things. And so I was like, okay, well, shit. So I ended up going on meetup.com, and there was a little tiny event. Like, you guys probably know Robert Kiyosaki's board game, like the cash flow board game.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So there was a woman in Charlestown, Mass, that had a tiny little group of like 8 to 10 people together in this little coffee shop on like a Wednesday night during the month or whatever, from like, I don't know, from like 6 to 8 or something, like just a really, really small like group just to like get together and play this game,
Mm-hmm.
And man, like, because my anxiety was going flipping crazy about going to that first event, like the most uncomfortable shit in the entire world. I came up with like every excuse in the book of like, oh shit, like that event's tonight, like it's my cat's half birthday, and like I never had a cat, and it probably wasn't his half birthday if I did. So like, you know what I mean? And that went on for months and months and months. And I ended up finally, you know, forcing myself to go, and it was something that changed my life, because the woman that I met over there was a woman named Lisa Manfredi. She was the one that like basically the first catalyst of like being open to like a whole nother world outside of like just, you know, put in more hours at work and make more money and like get the promotion and this, that, the other, of like entrepreneurship and real estate. And yeah. And so it was one of those things, like just, you know, to kind of share that little story of like, you know, putting yourself out there. And especially in the beginning, man, like it's tough. It's like, you know, I mean, the point where we're at now, man, like you host the meetup. I've hosted meetups in the past. We go to the same flipping meetups. Like I see you like, you know, a couple times a month, man. Shit.
Yeah. But you have to keep doing that though. You know,
Right.
I mean, it's just something, especially now. I mean, I didn't realize how important real connections really were until, like I said, until I met another friend of ours, Walter.
Yeah.
He's great. You know, like I said, it's just, he was the one that said to me, listen, let's get you hosting a meetup. And that's still out of your comfort zone. It's like, okay, I guess I can do that, you know. But I mean, now that it's going, it's like I'm certainly not going to stop doing it. But now it's just getting it so it's better, you know. I mean, not that I mind the intimate groups that we have. I mean, it's average anywhere between 10 and 18. I mean, I've had as many as I think 25 at one point. But
Yep.
But again, it's making those connections that's really, really important. I mean, he's right. I mean, your network is your net worth. I mean, it's absolutely true. And it took me a while to realize that, but yeah, that's absolutely true.
It totally is, man. And like, it's one of those things, like, I know like it can sound corny, you know what I mean? But like, it's so true. Like, it's crazy. And like, I mean, the, big thank you again for having me speak at your event a few weeks or last week, man. Because something that I was going to just touch on was a little bit of what I was kind of talking about when I was giving my spiel of, you know, the power of being able to go to your network for when, you know, some of those situations come up, and like, you know, striving to always be able to have somebody that is a lot more experienced than you are at that particular thing that you're going after. I'm being able to shoot them a call, shoot them a text, whatever, get their thoughts, get their feedback on something, you know, to potentially like decrease your risk a shit ton or even eliminate it altogether, you know. And it's the bigger that your network, like the more bulletproof that you are. And it's like, because I mean, that, like, you know, especially you know, the folks that are in our neck of the woods in particular, man, you know what I mean? Like, these guys and gals, you know, have been buying multis for decades, have been doing flips for decades, doing a million different parts of the industry. Like, they know, you know, I don't know, like the building inspector in like one particular town, like, hey, you know, just, you know, be a little, you know, careful with that one, and you know how you have that conversation, or like a lot of those like small intimate type of details, you know, or like, oh well, you know, what if you try like, you know, this type of model, it's a little bit different, it's still kind of what you're looking for, but you know, these are kind of the pros and cons that fall with it, and even like, oh, you know, basically like some of the markets in particular as well. It's like, oh, you know, like this market's gotten incredibly hot, like this wave's coming from Worcester and, you know, pushing out. Maybe, you know, Leominster's gotten a lot more expensive, maybe like an Athol or a Gardner, like kind of having that, like, I don't want to call it like street smarts, but like having that incredible intimate knowledge of yes, the theory and everything, but also, you know, in our local neck of the woods and that kind of thing. And the more people that, you know, like, the more you're able to leverage or mutually leverage, because they should be able to mutually, you know, leverage you as well for certain stuff. So yeah, man.
I mean, in a perfect world, you want somebody for every area. You're like, you know what I mean? You're like, you've got a database of just like, oh, I got someone for this town, that town. You got one for every place. I mean, exactly. That's what you really want. You're like, no, I want to be that guy where they can just say, hey, listen, talk to Matt. Oh yeah, he's got somebody.
Matt's got a guy or a gal. Yeah.
That's true. Ultimately, that's worth a lot, you know?
It is.
And I've done that now. It's just, oh yeah, hold on. I got someone I can, you know, I had someone call me who was actually she was at my meetup, and she she does the closet design work. But
Oh,
I used
yeah.
I used to do some handyman work for her. I mean, a number of years ago. But she reached out to me. I mean, it was probably a couple weeks prior. And I said, listen, I mean, honestly, I've really stepped away from that. However, I can find you someone, which I did. I don't know if they initially actually hooked up, but because she gave the info to the homeowner she was working with. So I said, well, listen, why don't you, come to my meetup? And so she ended up there. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. I didn't expect that, but I was like, it's a way to get business. And I think she got the idea. She's like, well, I'd like to learn about it. I said, well, perfect. I got someone who's talking about who has his own podcast and talks about multifamily, syndications and all that other stuff. So I said, this is kind of what, this is what I'm doing as well as being a real estate agent, a newer real estate agent. But yeah,
man. And one thing that I love doing too, it happens once in a great while, but I do enjoy when it happens, is like when somebody like makes a Facebook post or something about looking for something that's like super out of like this area or like super out of the box. And like, you just happen to remember like that one conversation that you had with somebody that like might know of people in that area. And like if, like there was one, it ended up happening like last week to me where, there was an investor that was looking for like a tiling company down in St. Petersburg, Florida. Matt, I couldn't tell you shit about Florida. Like I've been there like a long time ago, but like, I don't know anybody down there. Like, I don't know, whatever. I haven't been there in forever, but from having a conversation with another investor that just so happens to be doing a lot of flips down there, add a quick tag, and he's like, oh, wait, actually I do. Like, and he said like, oh, like I'll text the guy and that made the post. And it's a lot of fun, you know what I mean? Because it's like, and that's what it stems down to, man, is like, not only are you able to leverage that one direct connection for, that for a trade, for a particular area, like whatever service, whatever it is, but you're able to leverage their network as well. And it's like, I feel like it's one of those things, man, like, especially one thing that I do really enjoy about like the intimacy of all that kind of stuff is like, seeing the same people at meetups, like, you just build friendships and everything. You get to know people pretty well. Like, what areas that people are buying in, like, where your friends are buying in, or like friends of theirs, are they looking for flips? Are they looking for multis? And things just cross your plate once in a while. And it's like, oh shit. Like, I think Matt was like trying to do something over there, and man, it all boils down to the people.
I had to happen. Yeah, there was a fix and flip that came across my Facebook Messenger yesterday, and I immediately just passed it on to someone who was at my meetup and said, "Hey, you interested in this?" You're like, "Yeah." So I'm waiting to, so now I'm kind of waiting to, I got to get back in touch. Like, so are you're
gonna do it? Yeah, exactly.
Do it or what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's cool when you can do that. When you have people in your mind, you're like, oh, wait a minute. They invest there, or at least somebody who's close to that area. Say, listen, I got someone who's looking in this part of Florida, but I know you live here. But like, oh yeah, no, I know somebody who's over there, and it's just kind of playing matchmaker, if you will,
Exactly, and it's a lot of fun, man. It's like, I think it's the gratification that comes from it, of like, oh, like you were able to hook somebody up that was like, halfway across the country or like in a whole different place or something, even though it wasn't like directly like, oh, like this is my friend, like meet Matt, like he's the guy, but it might be somebody that Matt knows, or like somebody that Matt knows that, or, that is friends of theirs or whatever, you know what I mean? But
even though I'm told, you've been told, like, listen, it's like, as you're going through your journey, you can't, don't, it's like you can't always expect the gratification, but it's like, but it keeps the momentum going, man. It's like, what I mean? It's like, and I get that, but it's like, but it's just, if you're going a couple weeks and you're going hard and you're like, okay, why there's just nothing going on? It just eats at you, man. You're like, what am I doing here, man? This is just,
Yeah.
Exactly. It gets tough. I mean, I will tell you, it's beaten up. I mean, on me mentally and emotionally. It's just getting in that mindset. It's hard, man. It is hard. I tell people in this, let's say, listen, it's like, there's no easy solution. I mean, you have to, and I hate the thought of, having to go through an unbelievable disaster and then to come out on top. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to lose my house, lose my family, and they go, oh yeah, I'm so glad I went through that to get to where I am. It's like, no, I'm not. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like that. I don't
Exactly.
buy that, you know,
Exactly.
I know you go through stuff, but it's like, you know, it's, you know, I don't want to get myself to the point where you're like, okay, now I'm ready to just drive into a tree and end it. You know what I mean? I don't want it to get to that point, but sometimes you feel like, why am I doing this? It's like you should, not to compare yourself to other people, but you're like going, man, they've really done well. It's like,
exactly.
I'm still sitting here. And I'm like, it's just, I'm way down here and you're way up there. And it's just like, yeah. And I know that there's a lot that goes behind the scenes. I see a lot of people just like, yeah, that you don't see it, but it's like, still. It is an incredibly discouraged, you know, it's just like, come on, man. It's like, I'm at an age now where I'm like, all right, you just get more impatient because you want things to work. And it's like, man, okay.
And you get so close and then like something happens and it's like, fuck, you know?
Yeah. But then,
I hear you.
But then you'll have a few things happen like, oh, good. Now there's some momentum. I just get 3 calls or whatever. And you're like, oh, all right. And then you feel better. But it's such an up and down emotional roller coaster. It just beats the crap out of you. You're like, come on.
Exactly, man. And it's one of those things. I was telling somebody, I was at the dentist yesterday, and the nurse or whatever you want to call her, hygienist, whatever.
Hygienist, yep.
Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah. Sorry, guys. But like she was cleaning my teeth or whatever. And like, you know, we just like small talk, you know what I mean? Shooting the breeze. And, you know, naturally real estate came up, and I was telling her about that. I'm like, oh, you know, like I have a building, like, you know, I love this stuff, trying to buy more, like this, that, the other. And she was telling me about it was like her brother or something like that. He lives like somewhere across the country. He has like 10 single families or something. And, you know, does his own flavor of the investing space and all that. And I was telling her, I'm like, honestly, I'm like, it's a crazy game. I'm like, the emotional roller coaster is off the charts. The highs are high. The lows are low. And it's like it's crazy. Like it drives you for a flipping loop. And, but like, there's something about it that's like you like can't put it down, but it's like,
no, you can't. No, that's just it. I mean, the thing is I don't, you know, it's very difficult growing up the way that I have, where you're just in survival mode. It seems like, because you got a house, you know, you've got bills to pay, you got family and everything else. And I just, you know, it's just, you know, having the W-2, it's like you got, you know, it's to walk away from that and just to go all in. You're just like, okay, because if I'm going 3 weeks and there's nothing going on, I'm like, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm like, how do you get through? I was like, man, it's like, I can't not make money. I got to do something. You know what I mean? So that's the tough part.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of places we could go with that conversation, man. I mean, but one thing I will tell you, there's like a million different directions we can go with that. Yeah. But let me tell you, man, like me personally, Matt, like, because guys, like both, you know, me and Matt have W-2s, you know, our agents, like, you know, doing our investing stuff as well, trying to grow our stuff. I will tell you that I'm very glad that I kept my day job, because I was on the fence last year about not, and like, you know, trying to go all in on agency and like that kind of thing and just figure it out. Like, you know, some people out there just tell you that you're going to do. And I understand both sides of it. Like, I'm not shitting on either end. Like, who knows? Like, maybe that's some crazy thing where like all of a sudden you leave your job and then you do all this crazy stuff that shows up out of nowhere. And like, you have all this time and make all this money and whatever. But at the same time, we also have mutual friends that have done the same thing. And that, like, I don't know if like regret's the right word, but it's not as glamorous as it was presented.
No, it's just, you know, I mean, some people will thrive from it, and maybe sometimes that's what people need, but some people will just like, oh my God, what did you know, and they'll go the other way. So it's like, oh man, which way would I go on that? But I mean, for me, the W-2 right now, I mean, where I have kids, you know, in college or whatever, I kind of glad I kept it because I really needed it to kind of like help them along a little bit, you know? So there's two sides to it. It's like, you have,
Absolutely.
but there are days I'm just like, yeah, I don't, it's, I mean, not that I hate my job. There are days that it does suck. Don't get me wrong, but it's just, there are days you're like, yeah, okay, this is not the dream job. I've got to get out sometime, but man, it's getting over that initial hump.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I've had some successes. I've made some money, but it's like, it didn't stay that way. So it's like, okay.
It was like a hit. It was a quick hit.
It was. You got to,
Well,
you got
not
to
quick,
taste.
but-
You got to taste, and it's like, no, I want that taste back.
Yeah. This
want that
addiction,
back.
man.
I was able to pay off my credit card debt. It was great.
It was awesome.
Now I'm right back into it again. Like, what the frig? You know what I mean? It's like,
And yeah, man, it's one thing too. I talked to an investor in Southern New Hampshire that I think he's got a little over 400 units right now. He's been investing since like the early 2000s, man. And I was having some pretty close conversations with him in the past couple of months, and he was telling me like the way that he did it, man, and built up his portfolio after 20, 30 years was like just doing the same thing, like just working his day job, working those double jobs, double shifts, 80-hour weeks, whatever the hell it was, and literally like as soon as he got enough money, putting it into the next building, and like literally just grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding. And I don't think, I'm pretty sure he used the vast majority of his own money as well, which I know that's a whole nother conversation, but it was one of those things that he was telling me. He's like, honestly, dude, like my advice to you is to just keep it simple, just buy buildings over time, like, just keep everything stable. He's like, keep your day job until you're like literally making a pretty decent amount more net than, from your buildings than you are from your job. Like just leverage it all as much as you can. Like just keep it simple. Don't add unnecessary risk. And like I said, guys, like I'm definitely not, like telling you what to do, but that's the advice that I really liked for myself. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the road that I'm going to continue to flow for a little bit, and I mean, might as well, in my opinion, like, while you're still lendable, be able to buy, some 2 to 4 units, like, as much as you can until, the bank tells you no or whatever. And then you get different, some different challenges to get through. But like, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. But, something to really hit home on is, that some of the things that are presented out there that look very simple and look like a very easy ticket to make a quantum leap into the next phase of your life, there might be some, extra work behind the scenes that isn't nearly as glamorous that's being held off from being presented. That's all I'm saying. But there's a lot of different ways to do it. You know what I mean? But keep yourself safe, and
unless you can legitimately replace your income, at least you got to start there first, and then you can start thinking like, okay, wait a minute, now I'm, now we can start having a different thought process here. Okay, now I've done that. I've had some success. I kind of know some of the ins and outs. I mean, because like I said, this is still, I'm still learning stuff here. I mean, I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm at least moving forward. I mean, I feel good knowing that. I mean, granted, I'm doing the real estate agent thing part-time. I mean, and I've done okay in the last few months. Okay, that's fine. It's just, but it's not a full-time thing. So it's like, so you don't, again, you're only as good as your next transaction too. So and I'd rather work with investors anyway. I mean, that's just personally. Yeah.
I love it, man. Hell yeah.
I think it's easier,
Yep.
There's no wasting time. It's just like, yeah, okay, no, I'm interested in that. Okay, good. But
yeah, exactly.
But it's the path that, what path do you want to take? And sometimes you get into the real estate game thinking this is where you go in there with one thought. You're like, all right, this is where I want to go. But then you end up in a completely different space. And you're like, oh, wow. Because there's so many different avenues you can go. It's just like, okay, I didn't know that. That sounds interesting.
Exactly. And something along that point, man, is I feel like it's good to be focused, but also to be open-minded and allow yourself to pivot as well. And, it's one of those things. I mean, some of you guys might know, but I did a medium-term rental on one of my units in my 3-family in Leominster. And I did it for a while. It took way too long to set up, which that's another conversation for another day. But basically I ended up realizing very recently that, hey, like I don't, the extra money, well, quote unquote is nice. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze, but again, that's a different conversation. But basically my point being is like, it was a different flavor of multifamily. You know what I mean? And it's something that I heard about at the right time. I had this particular unit, vacant, and, it was almost getting done, like, refinished rather, and ready to lease for the next tenant. And I happened to hear about this at the right time. It was kind of a now or never thing. I decided to try it, had some success with it. Definitely learned some lessons from it. And I ended up learning, I'm like, hey, and making a decision after having some conversations with my network, that, hey, like, this isn't for me. Like, I ended up realizing literally like right 2 or 3 weeks ago, man. I'm like, that the hospitality aspect of like short-term rental and medium-term rental and everything is not for me. Like, I don't want to do it. I got a little taste. I learned the pros, the cons. It just, after doing it for a bit, tasting it, seeing if I like it, it doesn't interest me, and I want boring. So like I made the decision and, rent the unit.
That's part of the journey. You got to go through and see what your flavor is,
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, I don't really like that. You know what I mean? It's like, do I want to be a landlord, so to speak? No. I mean, not really. I mean, it's like, I don't want to be doing that stuff. I mean, I like the idea of, being a multifamily owner. Yeah. But it's like, I need someone else to deal with the management part of that. I just don't, I'm at that point, like, no, I don't want to do that work. I'm done with that.
Yep. Exactly. And that's the beautiful thing, man, is like, kind of stemming back to having the network and having the people around you. Is that something that, you can ask the people around you guys, and, they can like basically tell them like your situation of like, oh, like the cash flow and everything about that particular asset could be kick-ass and you might like it a lot, but you don't want to do the day-to-day management. So that could be like, there's like a million different trees that just opened up just from that one question in particular. Like you could throw a property manager in place, and then asset manage the property manager, or like, have like a preferred vendors list of like, your electricians, handymen, snowplow people, like that type of thing. So, and then like Zillow and like digital stuff, like to self-manage from elsewhere, and like, just text vendors as you need them, whatever. It's one of those things that I do like about our industry as well, man, is like, even like the term multifamily, or even like flip, like there's so many different ways to orchestrate that and get a result, a similar result at the end as running it a different way. Like, yeah, like, you could be the one that's self-managing your building, your multi, you could give it to a PM, obviously there's more to it than that, but like the point is like, if there's parts of it that you don't really like and you say, screw that noise, I want nothing to do with that, there's probably some sort of solution to take care of that, because somebody else has probably felt that way as well. And if not, like I said, maybe you pivot in a little bit of a different place. For me, like MTR, I could have had someone else manage it, but I didn't want to bother. I'm like, I just didn't enjoy it. Just want to keep it boring.
Yeah. Sometimes just keeping it boring. You want to like, listen, I mean, to me, it's like, I don't mind the fix and flip, but I'd rather get into the wholetailing where it's short and it's sweet. Yep. It's just, you get in, get out, and just, make the property mortgageable and just put it back on the market and just be, a quick in and out. You know what I mean? No, none of these long-term projects that just take months and even a year. It's like, no, it's just too long. You can't, because the market, as we know, can change. I mean, in no time. I mean, it's just, so it's just get in, get out, be done,
Exactly, man. Exactly. And that's one of the things as well is, the volatility, or, if you're using like private money or something, like, you're going to be paying that person, like if it's every month, if it's quarterly, like, say it's 9-10%, like whatever the hell the situation is, like,
Yeah. And of course, like I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And I don't want to be filling in an Excel spreadsheet and, doing just running the numbers. It just makes me sick thinking about it sometimes. It's like, but I don't it's all set up and done. It's like, I want the meat and potatoes. Show me what everything is. And I can make a judgment call. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This looks good, but to put it together, it's like, no, I just don't give me that. I'll go into a home, I'll go check it out, whatever. And, I can give you a basic snapshot what the numbers will be. And I'm usually pretty much, I'm pretty good at that, and then break it down after. It's like, all right. And then I can, but again, it's like, it's certain things you're like, let somebody else
handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Just like the social media, you know how good I am at social media? No, I don't. I don't want that either. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, I'm good. I'm okay with a little bit, but it's like, we've talked about this. It's like, come on, let's buy back your time. Get someone else to do that. It's just, yeah.
Exactly, man.
I know what I'm not good at, and some of that's like, yeah.
Exactly. But cool, man. What's next for you? Like, what's the next thing that you're kind of pushing towards? Like, continuing to try to like rip more of the wholesale stuff, like kind of
we'll just see we're gonna see how the agency stuff goes for now. Like I said, and even though that's a part-time thing, I do that, build the meetup, and just kind of see where it flows. You know what I mean? I'm the guy that likes action. I don't like to sit around too much. It's too boring. I don't want things to be boring. Sometimes
exactly.
But it's just I need things to be happening. Is just the ideal thing would be great. To get 2 to 3 closings a month would be awesome.
It'll be kick ass. Absolutely.
Like that'd be great. That's what you really want. But again, the market's going to just dictate what happens. It's not, obviously there's not a whole lot out there, but I'm sure it's challenging for everybody, but
I hear you, man. Hell yeah. No, I love it, dude. 100%.
Yeah. For me, it's just like, yeah, I love the opportunity presents itself somewhere, to work with a team of people again. And just kind of, cause like I said, I work better in a team environment, and I'm not the type of guy that's going to be like, oh, well, they take care of that, so screw them. It's like, no, if we're a team, we're going to help each other. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's how that's just how I'm built. So I'd rather just
leverage the strengths, man.
Yeah, just leverage the strength. And that's people in our community. Great. You know what I mean? So
yep.
You just never know where your next opportunity is gonna come. So like I said,
exactly.
You go on meetups and you have a conversation one day and you'll be like, oh, wow, all right, that's great. Because every time I go to these meetups, I have an interesting conversation with somebody. It's like, oh wow, I learned a lot tonight.
And then you're thinking about everything on the way home.
And thinking about it, you're like, okay, now I'm going to change everything.
Everything is different now. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. It's such a beautiful thing. It is. Speaking of social media, man, where can you be found on social media, Matt? I'll tag anything you want below.
I'm mainly on Facebook, but I am on Instagram and LinkedIn as well.
Okay.
I guess I probably should be a little more on those, but it's just I'm mainly on Facebook. I'd like to be, yeah.
Cool.
But like I said, those are the 3. I'm not on like Twitter or anything like that, but those are probably the main 3. But Instagram and LinkedIn, not as much as I should be, but actually I'll probably post something. I think I don't even know if I posted the meetup on the LinkedIn. That's why I need someone with social media experience.
Yeah.
I don't forget that stuff, because that's part of the problem. It's like,
yeah.
All right, well,
I hear you.
We didn't know it was tonight. It's like, oh jeez, it's like, it's all my fault,
I hear you. It's a lot of work, man. I feel like a lot of people underestimate social media. Like even now, man, like I'm on the fence about having asking Kathleen to do to like schedule like reels and stuff like that, like from like clips from the podcast, because it's like, I'm not gonna lie to you, man, like it's it's one of those things that it's like, it's definitely something that I need to get done, but it never gets into that top priority spot for the day. So then like other things come up, and then like whatever, and then it's like, oh shit, like I haven't posted these yet, and it's like
I really need someone. I mean, if I only need someone to kind of like almost walk me through a plan and just go, okay, what's going to make sense for what I'm doing? You know,
Yep.
like I want to present the meetup, yes, but what is it I really need? You know, I want to present myself as an agent, whatever, as a team, and whatever. It's like, okay, so how do I really leverage this?
Exactly.
But it's like I need someone to really kind of like, all right, help me walk through this. Because, like I said, my brain is just, I mean, it's just all over the place. I mean, I think I used to be a little bit better with organization, but nowadays it's just, I don't know what happened to it. It just went, it just went away. It's like, I don't know if it's come with age or it's like, I don't have it's like, I don't, either just not the patience or it's like, oh man, it's like, it's just
shit.
You're not good at, you're gonna procrastinate. You're not good at it.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna let it slide. You're like, I know, but I can't do that. I gotta get it.
I feel you, man. I totally feel you. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on here, Matt. That was an absolute blast.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.